Hit record so I don't forget. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. I live in
my pleasure.
I live in a world of comedy and goofiness, and I never want to reach out to other people, but your TikTok videos have changed my life. And I've not been this excited to actually talk to someone in a long, and I mean, I talk to people all the time. They're like comedians that I'm like, I look up to, but I'm like, Dr. Ned, I'm so excited. I was like 15 minutes early sitting in my office, just waiting. Anyway, thank you so much. And I'm going to give us a little proper startup, and then we'll just have a nice conversation, if that's okay.
How did you happen to discover the TikTok videos?
I was looking at a bunch of questionable booty videos, I guess. I don't know. It just kind of came out of my for you page, and it said ADHD, and I was like, all right, let's see what this is about. And you said the one I saw was about object impermanence, and it went right into my soul. I mean, look around me. Everything I own is out in front of me, and as soon as it goes away, it's gone forever. And does that also happen with people? Because I feel like during COVID, the 5 friends that I can count on my hand are the people I remember.
Yeah,
and I'm just like completely. I think that there's people I just forgot existed as well.
Yeah. Well, we need the visual stimulation, to bring us, into the moment.
No, they're like unbelievable. I thought TikTok was going to be one of the most unhealthy things I signed up for.
Right.
I hate social media. It takes too much of my life.
Right.
But these videos have been like, I'm sending them because in the world of comedy, every comedian has some form of ADHD or something, and it's all unregulated, and no one knows what they're doing. People are just snorting Adderall. It's like the worst thing in the world. And so I'm just seeing these little things and sending them to my friends, and like, oh, this makes sense. This is why I think this way.
Yes.
And so that's why I was like, I got to reach out to him, because if I can put this podcast out and just get it to comedians, then it'll help so many many
we
maniacs.
ought to put together, that's why I wanted to send you to Anna, we ought to put together some sort of campaign for comedians, because you guys are the poster children for ADHD. I mean, all of you've got it, and you're all entrepreneurs, and every entrepreneur has it. So so I'll connect you with Anna and see if we could do something.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Is it that obvious? How do you?
Yeah. I mean, once I'm 70. By the way, today is my 71st birthday.
Hey, happy birthday!
So, thank you. So, and I don't look it, right? But I've been dealing with it, living with it for 71 years. But I discovered the condition when I was doing a fellowship back in 1981 in child psychiatry. I'd never heard of it until then. If you told me someone had attention deficit, I would have thought it was some psychoanalytic term for somebody who hadn't gotten enough attention growing up.
Yeah.
But once I realized the condition, I realized, number one, that I had it, but number two, that the medical model just didn't do it justice. That the deficit disorder, we have an abundance of attention, not a deficit. Our challenge is to control it. Mm-hmm. And it's not a disorder, it's a trait. If you manage it properly, it's a superpower. If you don't, it can muck up your life. So, and usually it does a little bit of both. So I've been on a mission ever since then to destigmatize it and have people, by the time I die, I want people to wish they had it.
I am so much on the same page with you.
Yeah.
My whole life I was growing up. So I had I think I was ADD and then ADHD. I wasn't sure the difference. And this thing called central processing disorder, which I have no idea what that is, but I think that's on the books for something.
Right.
But they put me in classes with children who had Down syndrome and things like that. And they just, I mean, I don't want, I would go home and my teachers wanted to put me in a school for handicapped children. But my mom said my child is not handicapped. And she would re-go over everything I learned during school and be like, no, Greg, you can do this. We just have to figure out the way you do this. Cause she believed in me. And because of the ADHD and just watching my brother with it. My brother was a guy who'd sit at I'm sorry, I'm going so fast, but this is very exciting for me.
That's the way I live. Yeah.
Yeah. My brother would sit at a computer and I'd be like, and he would just be drawing or writing. And I would go, Joe. And he would go, what? Like scream. And I had no idea what that was, but he was so hyper focused into the thing that breaking him from that was like hitting him with a baseball bat.
Exactly.
And that's when it hit me. I was like, this guy isn't lost. This guy is super tuned in and no one knows how to deal with this.
Exactly. And that's, so that, have you ever heard of Dave Pilkey?
No.
He's the guy, have you ever heard of Captain Underpants?
Yes.
Okay, well, he's the author of Captain Underpants, and he's become a friend. He has both ADHD and dyslexia.
Right.
And when he went to school, to a Lutheran school in the Midwest, and every day just about, he would get paddled with a board. I mean, it just really severe abuse, and just harrowing. Mm-hmm. But instead of becoming a bitter man, he took his talents and he sold 80 million books, and he's his mission in life is to make children happy, and he has a couple of his characters in the series who have, he calls it ADHD. I can't remember how he puts it, but he gets them in there. And there's so many hugely successful people who have it. Most of the creatives, the stand-up comics, the inventors, the groundbreakers, the paradigm you disrupt, all of that's this nation has been made great by ADHD.
But
by the way, the only difference between ADHD and ADD is just whether you have or don't have the symptom of hyperactivity.
Oh, yeah. I never understood that. I was like, I'm hyperactive in my mind, but I'm
exactly.
So
technically, ADD does not exist. So in the diagnostic manual, there's ADHD, primarily inattentive, which means ADHD without the H.
Wow. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling about this because I haven't been hearing ADD in a long time. I feel like it was more around when I was younger, and now
it doesn't exist. It got renamed ADHD.
Why do creatives, in your opinion, I don't know if there's hard evidence behind this, but why is it that ADHD either creates artists or artists have ADHD? What is that?
Well, it's in the genes, and the three core symptoms in the diagnostic manual, which is all deficit based, are distractibility, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. Okay, now turn each one of those on its head. Take distractibility, turn it on its head, and what do you get? Curiosity. Curiosity is something you can't teach, and it's a wonderful quality. What's this? What's that? What's that? What's that?
Yes.
And you're just endlessly curious. What's under your dress? I think I'll lift it up and see. So sometimes it gets you into trouble, but what's in that petri dish? Oh, penicillin. So sometimes it's so then impulsivity. He's so impulsive. That's bad. What is creativity? But impulsivity gone right. You don't plan to have a new idea. They pop. Yes. They come impulsively. They depend upon disinhibition. If you're wired too tight and you can't let go, you're not going to be creative. So and then the third one, hyperactivity, turn that on its head. It's called energy. So the pathology model buries the assets, and that's what. So we're creative because we're wired to be. It's part of impulsivity. It's part of disinhibition. Wow. And that's what comedy is all about. Surprise. And the same thing with curiosity. We don't know where our mind is going to go. It just goes.
Yes.
So that's why the creativity. But it's also what gets us into trouble. So our greatest assets are our greatest liabilities.
Can I tell you personally, as a comedian, the thing that really made me get to the next level was when I started acknowledging the ADHD and letting that get on that boat, right? I used to fight it. I used to be like, write the jokes, make them word perfect. Yeah. And then once I started going on stage and just being free, and when those crazy thoughts started coming in and being like, let the crowd come along with this, that was when people started to see me and actually started to love me. And I went, oh, this thing you thought was a deficit, is your power.
Exactly.
The ability to not really able to say the right word at the right time is hilarious, like to some people. So it was like, it was owning this, what people say is a disability, was what really made me who I am and better on stage. And like you said before, it's like, I just want people to know, it's like, don't fight the wave, ride the wave. It'll push you.
Don't try to be Joe Normal. Number one, you'll never succeed. And number two, Joe Normal is boring. You know,
no one pays to see Joe Normal.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, so, but society puts a lot of pressure on kids to be Joe Normal. And so they try to, conceal or hide their true selves, which is a terrible shame.
What actually, so this is the thing that I never understood. And so this, and also if I'm ignorant to any of this, I am ignorant. So if I say things that are just dumb, you could just be like, well, that's completely wrong and fine.
No such thing as dumb would ever come out of your mouth.
Oh man, thanks. Like what, I never really understood, because so many people in comedy will also be like, oh, I have ADD, I have ADHD. And so many people, like, they'll just say it. And I'm like, no, I don't think you, see, I thought my whole life that I was just lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started taking, I just recently, I would say in the past few months, got back on Adderall.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, miracle drug. Like like if there was something on the floor before, I would see it and I would go, my wife's got to get that. There's no getting that. I cannot. I don't have the time. But now I see it and I go, just pick it up, put it away. And like, it allows me to do these things. Where was I going with this? Oh, yes. So my whole life I thought I was lazy. So then my question is, to you, I don't even know if this is a good question, but it's like, does laziness even exist? Like, what is ADD? Like, I don't know how to explain what I'm kind of asking here, but like, I wasn't lazy and I just wrote my life off as being this lazy guy, and then realizing it wasn't, it was the ADHD. So now I'm like, well, is anyone truly lazy? What even is lazy? Is lazy just undiagnosed?
Yeah, I think lazy is a cop-out word. What it really is you haven't found what turns you on.
Right.
You know, it's like boredom is the absence of stimulation,
mm-hmm.
and laziness is sort of the same thing. And you know, boredom is our kryptonite. We can't deal with boredom, so we immediately make something happen.
Yes.
And that can get us into trouble, or it can lead to a new joke or something like that. And lazy just means sort of extended, you know, period where you haven't found something that's exciting. Now, you can enjoy chilling out, and there's no problem with that. I mean, after I give a talk, back when I gave talks, you know, because with COVID you can't, but people would say, well, let us take you out for dinner. And I would say, I don't mean to be antisocial, but I've got to go home and watch TV to recharge my batteries.
Yeah.
You know, so I just have to chill out. And you know, that's not lazy. See, that's sort of we need our downtime. We can't be on all the time. We're way too frenetic. We're way too charged beyond all the time.
I feel so terrible for my wife, because I feel like she doesn't get the funny, because when I am out with people, I am on. It's like, how you doing? Even talking to you right now is partially torture, because I'm so excited. I'm fighting to not scream over you. And I'm like, don't take it the wrong way. I'm like, I don't want to cut you off, but I'm fighting to be like, yes, sir. And like, but I'm so charged. And then I come home and my poor wife, we just sit and relax. And she's like, how come you're not funny for me? And I'm like, you're my comfort zone. It's exactly. You're when I get to turn off and recharge. And, you know, and like, I don't know that it's like how fucking powered up I am 99% of the time.
Yes.
But what is that in the brain? Is there an actual thing that ADHD is, or is it one of those things where they're like, can it only be diagnosed through habits, or is there something that's in the brain that is visual that can be seen? Like, how do you know if you actually have it?
We don't have a physical test for it. There are on MRI certain differences, but none of them amounts to a test. It's mainly your history and the analogy. You know, I say I've got a Ferrari engine for a brain. I've got an incredibly powerful race car for a brain, but I have bicycle brakes. So the challenge is to put on the brakes and to give me more control, so my brain doesn't run away with me all the time.
My best friend, and he's a comedian, Anthony DeVito. He's like my best friend since high school. We got into comedy together. we are perfect together because I'm like a machine gun, and I call him like a sniper, where he just kind of waits for his shot, and he is. I told him, I was like, what is going on in your brain that you can wait? And he just says to me, goes, no, nothing's going on in my brain. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means. There is always a man screaming, just going, hey, just constant dialogue in my head. And then he told me that he was like, there just isn't that for him. And I just didn't get how that could possibly be, that you don't have a million people talking to you.
It's different versions. I mean, you're Robin Williams and he's Jack Benny.
Right.
So, you can be Jack Benny and have ADHD. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just your way is you pick your spots.
Right.
You thrive on pauses. Whereas Robin Williams, I don't think he ever paused for a second.
No, he wasn't. He was a machine gun. And one time, people used to complain that he would sometimes take jokes or something. And the reality was, I know what was happening. This guy is moving so fast on stage that he's just, when it comes out, he throws it. And maybe he heard that somewhere else. And it's like, I get that. I get worried about that as a comedian, that I'm going to say something that's like offensive or whatever. But it's like, guys, I'm working so fast that there isn't time to like fact check a lot of this stuff. I'm just doing it for jokes. Right. But like, it's this time now is kind of worrisome for me, because I'm very worried about like saying something the wrong way.
Oh, the age of PC is just hell for people with ADD.
Yes. Explain that.
Really. I mean, it's very hard to say anything without offending someone, I mean, it's like the world is a landmine field, so it's tough. How
do you get around? I mean, like, because I'm still a person. What bothers me is that, so little history on me. I was in, special needs classes constantly, and I had a teacher who thought she was doing good, but she wasn't. So and I didn't know this till years later. With the way she would work is, I'd be in class and I couldn't get any of the stuff. So then they would go into the resource room class. You'll have unlimited time there. And then she would just kind of help us cheat. And I cheated. True story. Don't know if I'll go to jail for this. We cheated on our SATs. Our SATs came. We took them in this class. The teacher went, okay, time to do SATs. She left. And then me and 10 kids all worked out. We all got the same score. We all worked out every question on the board. But it was like, this didn't help me in life, because when you get to life, now I'm expected to do those things.
Right.
But I don't have the tools. I don't have the tools to do them. Like, I don't know how to get myself to sit and write something that's mundane. I can write 100 first drafts, but once it comes to spell check, once it comes to cutting out the fat on some of these words, it's literal torture for me.
So you get an editor, you get a coach, you get someone else to do it for you.
Well, that just seems very easy. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Yeah, I mean, just get someone who enjoys doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, just don't do it.
No, exactly. I say everyone with ADD should team up with someone who has attention surplus disorder.
Is that a thing?
No,
what is that?
It's my invention.
It's very excited.
There are these people. They love sweating details, because it reinforces their feeling of control.
Right.
So they love going through a spreadsheet. They love editing a manuscript. They love the stuff that we just would rather stick ice picks in our eyes than do.
Yeah. My therapist said that to me. She was like, it is torture for you. Sorry.
So don't, you get to a certain age in life where you should no longer try to get good at what you're bad at, and delegate what you're bad at and do what you're good at.
That's kind of so simple and so beautiful, because I spend so much time fighting to be the person I'm not.
Exactly.
Then it's
time
like
to give that up. When you're in 4th grade, you have to try to get good at what you're bad at, because you're bad at everything.
Yeah.
But then that's called learning new skills. But there comes an age where, okay, I've learned enough skills. Let's hone the ones I've got.
Yeah.
And you've got a gift for comedy. Do that. And let someone else pay your taxes. Let someone else edit your manuscripts.
Dude, people ask me why I married my wife, and I said, look, she's a great girl, but she is great at paying the bills.
Yeah.
She is a type, whatever that other type is. I call
Yeah.
her, I am the dog, running wild, and she is the chain that keeps me from getting hit by a car. I come home and she's like, that's what she does. She's good at the little things, the little mundane things. And then what I'm
Perfect.
good at is just screaming at her and making her laugh. And it's
Perfect
like,
wife. Perfect
yeah,
wife. How long have you been together?
we've been together for about 12 years. We've been married for 2.
You have any kids?
No kids. It's like this amazing story of like, we were both, I mean, 3 years ago, I made $8,000 for the year, and she
Wow.
was living with me and 2 roommates,
Wow.
and she's a registered dietitian,
Uh-huh.
and she was getting her RD. So we were just two, like, I was an artist and she was struggling through school.
Right.
And like this woman lived with a man named Mad Dog. That is the other guy we lived with. And it was like, yeah, you gotta marry that person. But yeah, I mean, I actually have a question about that, because she's a nutritionist, and I started getting, I just lost 15 pounds. And I think a lot of it's very possible it's from the Adderall, but but I don't know that it's the suppression of the appetite, because I know that the drug it says it's an appetite suppressor, but I think that there has something to do with, in my opinion, is I think the ADD makes me eat more, not because I'm hungry, but because it's like instant gratification or boredom or something like that.
Yeah.
And
plus carbs are dopamine agonists. So, people, it does for you the same thing that Adderall does, or that, so carbs bring pleasure.
Really?
Yeah.
Also, notice all the action figures in the background. As
Yeah.
you're saying this, I'm like, oh, this is clearly part of the ADHD. That was a quick dopamine drip in a Toys R Us, just to like, man, am I a person, or am I just, I'm starting to wonder if I'm even special or anything. It's just like, no, it's just like, this is all the ADHD just concentrated.
No, but what makes you special are the particular manifestations. So there's a general theme of ADHD driving it, but how it comes out, that's what makes you special. What jokes you tell, or what
Right.
So you're very special. But how old are you?
Oh boy, what is it? 81 I was born. 39, I'm almost 40. In June I'll be 40.
Wow. That's really wonderful. And do you actually go on stage now? Or are you writing for TV shows, or what? How do you?
Before COVID, I was, working stand-up comic. That's the thing that I'm the best at. That's the thing that I love the most.
Uh-huh.
When COVID happened, cut back 99% of that. When this transition happened, I said, now is the time in life to work on all of the things that you wanted to do but couldn't do because stand-up was always looming.
Right.
So I said, experience it, like be in the quarantine. And because I grew up in Jersey, and when 9/11 happened, I remember just being really horrified, but later saying, I wish you had taken notes. I wished you had, as horrible as it was, I wish you had experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when this came, I was like, experience this, good or bad. And so now I started writing. I finished my first pilot during COVID, because I got myself back on Adderall. I started actually writing, and allowing myself to be okay with all of this. And so now I just do a podcast where we pretty much survive off of like the podcast with our Patreon, and also like album plays on Sirius XM. And
what's the name of your podcast?
The Rad Dudecast.
The Rad, RAD?
Yeah.
Dudecast. Dudecast.
It is the most ADHD podcast. It is me and 2 other friends, just kind of like, we do like characters sometimes. It's the rule for the podcast when we started was, if someone has an idea, you have to do it. So whatever that idea is, whatever you want to talk about, we have to do it. Oh. And it's just been a great outlet to drain. We do it we do 1 free episode a week, and then we do 3 Patreon episodes, and just allowing me to do 4 episodes a week of venting, which is like huge.
And then people pay through Patreon, and you make good money.
Yeah. You survival, it's great. And I'm very happy. I'm living a very, like, COVID could have been a lot worse. I feel really bad for comedians and all that. But
that's wonderful. That's really wonderful.
So how did you, with ADHD, become a doctor? This is what I just don't even understand. I mean, I'm 40 and I'm finally just figuring out how to actually work. How did you figure it out so soon? I don't know. How did you do that?
Well, the advantage of coming from a very unstable childhood, you know, I tell people I come from a WASP characterized by the WASP triad, which is alcoholism, mental illness, and politeness. So everyone I grew up with was drunk and crazy. And so, you know, and I got sent away to boarding school at the age of 10. So I had to learn how to do school.
Right.
You know, I just learned. And I also, I needed to get the approval and love of adults. And so I tried to please my teachers. I wasn't particularly interested, but I knew they'd love it if I did well. So I really applied myself, and you know, and you know, I was blessed with a high IQ. So then I went on to Exeter, which is this very rigorous prep school in New Hampshire, and then on to Harvard, and I loved English literature. So I majored in English, but I was practical. I said, well, I can't make a living as a writer probably. So why don't I go get an MD, which is, you know, that'll guarantee me an income.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to medical school, you know, and then lo and behold, I became both a doctor and a writer.
Wild.
So, you know, I've written 20 books, and they've sold about 2 million copies, and I've, you know, made a big impact through my work with ADHD, a condition I didn't even know existed when I went to medical school.
See, and this is what makes me angry with you. I'm going to tell you what makes me very furious with you. You have all this great ADHD information, and then you put it in the worst place ever, a fucking book. Okay. How the hell am I going to get that information out of that book? You put it in a comic book. I mean, that's why I was actually so...
Greg, you're exactly right. That's why TikTok was such a godsend.
Yes.
This was a month ago, or 6 weeks ago, said to me, you really ought to put this stuff on TikTok because 60-second bites are what ADD people want.
Yes.
I said, TikTok, I thought that was what a clock did. And she said, no, TikTok is a social media platform. I said, okay. And then so she said, I'll take your iPhone and I'll film you. And next thing you know, she posts them. And, you know, we've had like 4 million views in 6 weeks.
I know I keep saying it, but like, you don't understand how this it is the perfect platform for this, because I was like, there's no information about ADHD. And people are like, oh no, there is. You just have to read it. Like, well, who's going to read it to me? Exactly. No one. How are any of these books selling? Because the only people who can read must be like, well, I don't have ADHD. I can read. So just put it away. And so I listened to a couple of your episodes, your podcast. I was like, oh, I didn't realize there were podcasts outside of comedy, but I was like, oh, I can listen to these things.
Yeah.
Now I have now with the ADHD, is ADHD something that can be manifested? A lot now people are talking about that social media, all of this stuff is making other people like have ADHD. I don't know if that's being sarcastic or not, but it's like lowering people's, I guess, their attention span. I don't know.
Yeah, there is I often say the differential diagnosis is, how do you tell ADHD from a severe case of modern life?
Yeah.
You know, because in modern life we're overstimulated, overwhelmed. You know, we've got all our screens and buttons and all that, and we become, if not addicted, at least habituated to it. So it's hard to stay on one topic for more than a few seconds. Now that's not true ADHD, because the way you tell them apart, you do what I call the Vermont test. You take someone who you think might have ADD and you put him on a farm in Vermont, and you leave him there, and you come back in 2 weeks. And if he's sitting on the porch reading a book, then it was a severe case of modern life.
Yeah.
But if he's turned the farm into an amusement park, then it was ADD.
Yeah. What are what are the main signs of ADHD? Like, what are like, because, let me tell you this quick story if you don't mind. And this is a thing that really affected me and bothered me. My Adderall regulation, and this is horrible to say, is pretty much regulated by me. I was on Ritalin when I was a kid, got off of it, needed it through college, but stopped because it made me crazy. Saw a doctor. He wrote me for 40 milligrams twice a day, I started taking it. I cleaned my room. I was having a great time. I call my friend Mike. My friend Mike is a doctor. And I go, hey, Mike, this fucking Adderall, it's a goddamn best. I'm having a blast. And he goes, are you having a blast? I go, yeah. And he goes, then you're just doing drugs. He goes, you need to cut that in half at least. I cut it in half, ended up going down to 5 milligrams, wasn't working, cut it out of my life completely. So then I was like, I need to see an actual psychiatrist. And it's hard to get these guys. I see this guy, it's no joke, 15 minutes with him. He asks me a few questions. He goes, look, you're overweight, you're not sleeping, you don't have ADHD, you have depression. Wrote me for Prozac. I call my friend Mike. I go, man, I'm telling you, man, I don't think I have depression. I was diagnosed with this. And he goes, anyone who knows you have ADHD. Anyone. Yeah. So then it like, I got really like, it messed me up. So then he was like, see, he goes, he made me take a diary. He's like, you take the Adderall, write down how you feel. He's like, you don't want to feel the way I say Adderall makes me feel is it used to be, I would drive on this road and it was just covered in snow. And if I take the Adderall, all it does is remove the snow. So I can go down the road if I want to, but I also can choose not to. Whereas when it was too much, it was like flying me down the road. Right. And when it was too little, you couldn't walk down it. It was just it was too covered with snow. So I'm like, so my question is, my fear is that I am always doubting the fact that I have ADHD and that I'm not just a lazy person. Like, so how does someone know if they actually have ADHD? I know you said before history, but
that's where it is. It's in your history. I mean, I can tell you if it'll mean anything to you. I am one of the world's experts.
Yeah,
and I can tell you, you've got it.
3 seconds in, when you were late to this meeting, I knew this guy's got it.
I can tell you, you've got it. So, but it's very common for people with ADHD because we hate bullshit. We hate hypocrisy. We hate lying. Mm-hmm. We just hate it. It's just, and so we often think, am I just making some lame excuse for being, as you said, am I just copying, some modern yuppie, flu sort of thing when I'm really just a lazy dumbass who, needs a kick in the pants. And, that's what I call the moral diagnosis, and the Western civilization has been plagued with moral diagnoses. I mean, Every school teacher thinks basically hard work cures everything. And telling someone with ADD to try harder is about as helpful as telling someone who's nearsighted to squint harder. Trying harder helps a little bit, but it doesn't get at the basic problem.
Yes.
And the basic problem is you're driving on square wheels, or you're walking around and need eyeglasses, and being punished or made to feel guilty or being told you're lazy only makes it worse. Mm-hmm. So, but you're such an honest guy, you don't want to cop to something that's an excuse.
Yes.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. But you've got a runaway brain. You've got it. You've got a runaway brain with bicycle brakes. You've got a Ferrari engine for a brain with bicycle brakes. You've got this colossal imagination, and you've always had it. So you don't realize what it's like not to have it. Most people don't have that. Most people don't have what's on the shelves behind you. Most people, they just don't have the capacity to make jokes, to come up with. It's just alien to them. It's like, it's like growing avocados, out of a brick. You just can't do it. Mm-hmm. So what comes naturally to you, you don't see as the incredible gift it is. Your imagination is your most prodigious asset. But it also gets in your way because it leads you willy-nilly hither and yon. It can conjure up depressive feelings and feelings of inadequacy, and it can turn on you. But basically, it's your asset that nobody else has, and so that's at the heart and soul of ADD, is this colossal imagination, this need to create. And if you don't have a creative, the reason I've written so many books, if I don't have a book going, I get depressed. So you
hope is the only thing I have.
Yeah, you need a creative outlet, and then you need a loving relationship to help stabilize you, and you've got that, which is great.
Man, you made me cry.
Yeah, what? Yeah, no,
it's gonna make me cry. Yeah,
no, it's true. It's true, and so, but yeah, you've got it, and You know, and you know, it's wonderful that you have adapted so well. I mean, like I say, you know, this is what drives most of the creative people in the world.
Why does the low self-esteem come hand in hand? It seems like low self-esteem comes hand in hand with ADHD. You know, it's like,
Because
why is that?
we didn't excel. I mean, I happen to excel, but most of us didn't excel with the other Joe and Jill normals in school. And so we got this feeling very early on that we weren't, you know, anything special.
Right.
And the stuff we were good at didn't matter in the world, like being
Mm-hmm.
funny, and so we felt inadequate. And when that gets in early on, it's hard to get it out. I'll tell you a story. David Neilman, who's become a friend of mine, who founded JetBlue Airlines,
Mm-hmm.
has wicked ADD. I mean, if you drive, I drove him in his car. It looks like a 16-year-old's car. I mean, gum wrappers and broken records and, you know, dust, and it just a total disaster.
Uh-huh.
He's got huge ADD. So the day JetBlue went public, in a matter of hours, he made hundreds of millions of dollars. And he said to me, was I driving home to celebrate? He said, no, I felt like the same loser who couldn't hack it in high school. See, so when that negative thing gets in there, it's very hard to get it out. And, you know, David is one of the great benefactors of this world. He left JetBlue. He went on to start a few more airlines. He's got 9 children. He's a philanthropist. He's the kindest fellow you'll ever meet. And he at his core thinks he's impaired, thinks he's a loser.
In my soul, and I hate to bring up my brother too, but in my soul, there's this guy who's constantly just going, "You're a freaking loser. You're an idiot.
Exactly.
You're dumb.
Exactly.
You're dumber than everyone else." And then
And if anyone knew the real you'd be exposed as the
once they find out, it's over. Once these people realize I'm a fraud,
right.
I'm back to $8,000 a year. These
Right.
bastards.
Exactly.
But my brother, this is a great, like, my brother is an amazing artist. He had an art teacher, and I get mad to this day. The art teacher was sick for a day. My brother took 5 or 6 rolls of masking tape and made this entire spider web on like the closet door that was like just amazing art. The art teacher looks at him and he goes, "This is impressive. I'm failing you for using all of our masking tape. Must have cost $20 or something." I still to this day get mad. I go, if that art teacher would have just seen that and said, "This kid's got something, let's push it," instead of yelling at him. Like, he just made, like, he made this insane thing. And I always look, I was like, if he would have just been pushed the right way. And my brother.
So classic. That's so classic. That story is so classic. And what happened? What's your brother doing now?
Oh, I call him every day and we talk about comic books, and he's like, this is kind of personal. I don't really care. My brother does his own thing. He's just an amazing artist. I am the one who kind of, because I was able to watch where they cut him off at the knees, and learn from that. So my brother was the frontline guy, you know, he was the troublemaker, and I then saw him and went, "Oh, I'm him, so I can just go the other way and be more charismatic." So I was able to do better with comedy, but he's my go-to guy. Like, I wrote a pilot and he was the guy I called every day. So to be like, "Look, how do I end this story? How do I do this?" And he's like, "Let's do this, this, and this." And so the plan, it's like, my plan is always to just get rich and famous so that I can give everybody money. But the plan is to, when I finally sell something, I'll be like, "Okay, Joe, like, I got us now. Let's go do this." And then get him some health insurance so that we're not sharing Adderall anymore, because that was a thing we were doing for a while. Where I was like, we were just going back and forth with who had insurance to just get the other guy their fix. And it was like, it's, you know, neither of us, and you have to understand too, and I know it sounds crazy, but I also worked in an ER for 5 years. And I have let me just tell you this, you might actually like this. I got a job as a transporter. It was just bringing patients up and down. My mom worked in the ER. She got me the job. They had these note takers, which they made at the time was $18 an hour, which was an insane amount of money for me. So I get this job. You have to pass a test to get the job. I cheated on the test for medical knowledge, get the job. I was the worst note taker in the history of the world. You have to go in with the doctors, you have to be so specific with the notes. As soon as I would go in, I'd be like, "Broken teeth. I wonder how this guy's broke his teeth." I'm like, literally not paying attention. The doctors were like, "We can get sued if you do." They were going to fire me. Doctor calls me in. They call me into the room to fire me. And I was like, no, I understand. I'm not good at this. I put on my glasses. I had these red glasses. And the doctor says, hey, do you wear these red glasses a lot? I go, yeah, every now and again when I wear my contacts. He goes, have you been talking to patients? And I go, yeah. If they're crying or they're sad, I go in, I talk to them, and they go, we have been getting, our patient satisfaction scores have been in the garbage for years. The only spike in patient satisfaction we were getting was from this doctor with the red glasses. They all think you're a doctor. You are saving this contract. They go, you are fired from note taking. Your new job is patient satisfaction coordinator. You're just going to be the Patch Adams. And my job became go into each ER, talk to the patients, make them know what's comfortable, make them feel comfortable, follow up with them.
Great. What a great story. I mean, that's really who we are.
Yes.
We spread fairy dust, when we're allowed to, and when we're not down on ourselves. When we allow our true selves to come out, we're the people who pick up the world.
And like you said, I was forcing myself to be this note taker to fit that job.
Exactly. You were trying to be Joe Normal. You were trying to do a serious job. You were trying to be a diligent, all this bullshit that the standards we're trying to live up to that we shouldn't.